You probably know the story of Joseph, right? The coat, the dreams, the whole saga. But today, we're going to do something a little different. We're not just retelling a story. We're opening up a case file. We're going to treat this ancient tale like a real crime, one that happened in a specific time and place under a very, very real and pretty harsh legal system. And it all kicks off with this one accusation. With these words from his master's wife, Joseph, a foreign slave with zero power, is accused of one of the worst crimes you could imagine. A trap has been set, the evidence has been planted, and things are looking really, really bad. And that's the big question for us today. We're going to put this claim on trial, using the laws and the history of ancient Egypt itself as our guide. So, what should have happened to Joseph according to their laws, and what actually did? The answer, you'll see, uncovers a fascinating historical mystery. All right, first things first. Before we can even look at the case, we have to understand the court. What kind of legal system was Joseph even up against? Let's dive into justice in ancient Egypt. So you gotta understand, for Egyptians, everything revolved around this one massive concept, ma'at. Now, this wasn't just a rule book, it was the cosmic principle of order, truth, and balance, the way the universe was supposed to work, set up by the gods themselves. So breaking a law wasn't just a crime, it was like punching a hole in the fabric of the cosmos. Now here's the real kicker. Forget everything you know about innocent until proven guilty. In ancient Egypt, it was the other way around. If you were accused, the court basically started with the assumption that you did it. The entire burden of proof was on you to somehow prove your innocence. For a guy like Joseph, a slave, a foreigner, this was an absolute legal nightmare. And this was the system that would enforce that principle. It was totally top-down. You had the pharaoh at the very peak, seen as the god's divine judge on earth. Right below him was the vizier, who ran the whole show. Then you had national courts, the khanbet, and even local village councils. It was a clear, powerful chain of command. Okay, so we've got the law down. Now, let's head to the crime scene. The entire case really boils down to two completely different stories and one single piece of physical evidence. I mean, it's the classic he said, she said scenario, isn't it? On one side, you have the word of the master's wife, a powerful, high-status Egyptian. Her story is simple and explosive. He attacked me. On the other side, you have Joseph. His defense is basically his track record and his reason for refusing her all along, his loyalty to his master, and even more, his commitment to his God. And this is where it all comes together. The whole case hinges on this cloak. To her, it's Exhibit A. Proof he's guilty, left behind as he assaulted her. But in reality, it's the piece of clothing she tore off him as he ran away from her. This one object becomes the silent witness, and the story it's forced to tell is what will decide his fate. So let's just recap the facts real quick. You have a legal system that assumes you're guilty, you have a powerful accuser against a foreign slave, and you've got a piece of physical evidence, no matter how it's being spun. So based on Egyptian law, what should have happened? Well, let me tell you, Egyptian law did not mess around with crimes that threatened the family. The punishments were absolutely brutal. A wife found guilty could have her nose cut off or even be burned alive. A man could get 1,000 lashes. The punishment for a slave who dared to assault his master's wife? It almost certainly would have been a swift and very public execution. Game over.
And yet, what was Joseph's actual sentence? It wasn't death. It wasn't mutilation. It was prison.
And right here is where our crime story turns into a historical mystery. This sentence, it's weirdly light. It just doesn't fit the crime he was accused of. So why? Is it possible that his master, Potiphar, didn't actually believe his wife's story 100%? This strange, lenient sentence is our biggest clue, and it points us toward history for the real answer. Okay, so to solve the mystery of this lenient sentence, we have to put on our historical detective hats. And the real key is figuring out when this story took place. The specific time period, it turns out, might just explain everything. So scholars pretty much have two main theories. The later date puts Joseph in the 17th century BC, a time when a group of Asiatic people, the Hyksos, were actually ruling parts of Egypt. The earlier date, though, places him back in the 19th century BC, during the super powerful native Egyptian 12th dynasty. And you know what? The clues inside the story itself point really strongly to that earlier period, the 12th dynasty. For one, Potiphar is specifically called an Egyptian. Then Joseph is said to rule over all the land of Egypt, which was true for the 12th dynasty pharaohs, but not for the Hyksos. Even a tiny detail, like Joseph shaving his face before he meets Pharaoh, is a distinctly native Egyptian custom. But here's the real clincher, and it comes from archaeology. An incredible discovery at a place called Tel El Dabba uncovered a palace from the 12th dynasty. And inside, they found the tomb and a smashed-up statue of a super high-ranking official who was, without a doubt, an Asiatic, a foreigner, identified by his unique hairstyle. This is hard evidence that someone just like Joseph could, in fact, rise to a position of immense power in Egypt during this exact period. And when you know that, Joseph's career path suddenly looks remarkably plausible. We have records from this time, the Middle Kingdom, that show Asiatics often worked as household servants, and a really talented administrator could then get promoted to chief steward, managing the king's lands. And from there, it was a possible, though incredible, leap to the highest office in the land, vizier. And let's be crystal clear about what vizier meant. This was not some middle management job. The vizier was basically the prime minister, the head of the entire government, the COO of the whole kingdom. He was the second most powerful person in all of Egypt, answering only to the pharaoh. For a foreign slave to get there, well, it's just mind-boggling. So, after digging through the law, the evidence, and all this history, let's bring it all together. It's time to deliver the final report on the case of Joseph, son of Jacob. So, the verdict in Potiphar's house was guilty, but the verdict of history is remarkably plausible. The strange legal sentence, the political structure, the archaeological proof, it all lines up to show that Joseph's incredible story fits perfectly into the specific, verifiable world of Egypt's 12th dynasty. And knowing this history, it just gives the story's timeless themes so much more weight, doesn't it? Joseph's stand for his integrity wasn't just a moral choice in a vacuum. He took that stand inside a real-world system that was designed to crush him, a system he faced with what the story calls an unwavering faith and divine help. So I'll just leave you with this final thought. How does knowing all this, the real legal danger, the incredible historical context, change the way you see this story? It turns it from just a simple fable into a profound drama that played out on a real historical stage, making the questions it asks about faith, injustice, and integrity feel that much more powerful.